Hello, this is Belen Tejas for IB Film Class Year 1, and I will be analyzing a clip from the film The Piano, made in 1993, directed by James Campion, and made and set in New Zealand. Some background information, as well as a small summary of the plot. This story is set to be in the mid-19th century, where Ada, who is portrayed by Holly Hunter, and her young daughter moved to New Zealand due to an arranged marriage that is made by Ada's father. Ada, who we learn at the beginning of the film is mute, must move from her native land, which is Scotland, to New Zealand, where she meets her mysterious husband, Stuart. Stuart is portrayed by actor Sam Neill, and his character causes grief to our protagonist, Ada, when he leaves behind the piano, Ada's prized piano, on the beach, and later sells it to their neighbor George. Finally, George, who is portrayed by Harvey Keitel, makes an offer to Ada, saying that he will give her back her piano in exchange for piano lessons, among other conditions as well for each key. As the film progresses, Ada and her husband's relationship stays distant, while Ada and her neighbor, George, also known as Mr. Baines, starts getting closer in a different way. Due to Mr. Baines' offer and other conditions, Ada is tested in her will and in her fidelity to her husband. In order for me to explain the scene well and for you to understand, I must first explain the relationship between Ada and her piano. At the very beginning, we get an insight into Ada's mind. She states, "My husband writes that my music is him, and hark this, he says, God loves dumb creatures, so why not I? 'Twere good he had God's patience, for silence affects everyone in the end. The strange thing is, I don't think myself silent. That is because of my piano. I shall miss it on the journey." In short, the piano could be a representative of Ada's voice. It is seen throughout the movie, especially when Ada is playing it. Ada cannot live without her piano, and this is especially seen at the beginning of the movie when she goes back for her piano on the beach and plays for the entirety of the day. Ada plays passionately and differently than any of the other people that she has met. The character Aunt Morag can also testify to this when she states, "She is a strange creature, and her playing is strange, like a mood that passes into you. Up! Now your playing is plain and true, and that is what I like. To have the sound creep inside you is not at all pleasant." It can be theorized that through Ada's piano playing, she voices her thoughts and emotions, where it's similar to having a sound creeping inside of you because of her emotions that could be so different and interpreted differently by the people around her. She plays with such vigor, such emotion, that she captures the attention of none other than her neighbor and her husband's friend, George Baines. George pursues Ada in a sexual manner, first beginning to advance slowly, and then later, it climaxes to the point where they have sexual relations. This, in turn, it gets discovered by none other than Ada's husband, who says nothing in that moment, but instead locks Ada away and forbids her from ever seeing Baines again. Before this clip begins, Ada has just asked her young daughter to go and give a package to George Baines. In it contains a piano key with the love declaration written on it. The little girl refuses to go to George Baines and instead heads over to her husband's workplace. When Stuart reads a message, he becomes infuriated, and this is where the clip begins at hour 1 minute 36 and 0 seconds and ends at hour 1 minute 40 to 35 seconds. Stuart rushes home with the little girl trailing after him. The side shots switch back and forth between him and the daughter. He looks more threatening, and it is a very big contrast between him and the girl. The girl is still wearing her costume from a play that she had done in the film, and he is carrying his axe and has a very angry look on his face. The camera focuses on either Stuart's face or the axe that he has in his hand, while when we switch back to the little girl, we focus more on her expression, her innocent look, and her very confused expression. Rain is also beginning to pour on both the little girl and Stuart. Thunder is heard in the background, as well as piano music. The piano music is not subtle either. It is beginning to play with fervor, and this all indicates towards a big event that has yet to happen and is going to happen. It has the audience in anticipation as we wait to see what Stuart has in mind for Ada. When Stuart arrives home, the first thing we see is a medium shot of our protagonist sitting at the table reading a book until she is disturbed by someone coming in through the door. Once she realizes who it is and what they are about to do, she gasps. The scene quickly switches to the next shot, which is of Stuart bringing down the axe onto the piano. The scene quickly switches from Stuart swinging down the axe onto the table. It causes the items on the table to rise up a little bit before falling back down. This close-up of the items on the table puts emphasis on how hard the impact was. Then we switch back onto Ada's expression, which is both shocked and worried. The shot quickly switches back to Stuart as he says to Ada, I trusted you, then brings the axe onto the piano. Ada, shocked, runs over to Stuart to try and pry him and the axe off of the piano. The axe is embedded into the piano, and Ada is pushed forcefully away by Stuart. Stuart grabs Ada and slams her into the wall. The shot is a wide angle so we can see everything that is going on in the room. We are able to focus on the axe and the piano, Stuart's forcefulness with Ada, as well as the piano music in the background, adding to the intensity and the anxiousness. It is known that the worst is yet to come when Stuart begins to haul Ada out of the house and grabs his axe on the way out. The camera tracks their movements as they go outside, and the shot switches back onto the daughter, who has finally arrived. He sees Stuart grabbing and trying to hold on to Ada as she tries to wriggle free. Stuart takes Ada outside to a nearby stump where he tries to get to hold Ada still. The shot switches from Stuart's upper body trying to grab onto Ada to Ada, who is falling on the ground, struggling to get up and run. The little girl, terrified, begins to shout for Stuart to stop whatever he's doing. pays no mind, and he is finally able to grab a hold of Ada. The shot switches to Stuart, who's able to grab Ada's hand, and then we see a close-up of Ada's hand onto the stump. Then back to Stuart's face, and back to Ada's face, who is almost emotionless. When Stuart lifts up the axe, the little girl, terrified, screams, and when the axe comes down onto Ada's hand, we see her, the camera focuses onto expression, and it is a shocked expression, and we see how Ada's expression becomes shocked, as if she cannot believe that the axe has just gone down on her hand. She makes no noise, but the piano music has finally stopped. It is just as Stuart says. He has cut off her wing. To make it even more gruesome, the shot focuses back on the little girl. As she screams, blood spurts onto the little girl. As Ada is finally free of Stuart's grasp, she gets up slowly and walks out towards the open. She doesn't get very far as she collapses onto the muddy ground. The Stuart, in order to get his message across, gives the little girl Ada's finger, which he has chopped off. Before Stuart gives the little girl the finger, we see a close-up of Ada grasping her injured hand as she is slowly walking away to the open space. The little girl, terrified, goes running off to George Bain's house. Once there, she waits for him and is seated in a corner. The camera focuses onto her shaken expression as she is silently waiting for George to come home. Once George arrives, she begins to wail and bawl, and George takes notice of her and quickly rushes over to her side. The little girl gives George the finger and tells George exactly what Stuart told her, that if he were ever to see Ada again, he would chop off each and every one of them one by one. George, now in a rage, begins to ask the little girl what happened, and the little girl, still shaken, begins to run back towards her mom's. For all of these shots, the camera is mainly focused on either the upper half of the body or a close-up shot of their faces. When George gets a hold of the little girl outside, he shakes her violently as he tries to get the story out of the little girl. The scene begins to come to a calmer end once one of George's female friends grabs the little girl and holds her in her arms, trying to soothe her. The majority of these shots come in rapid succession to give off a more anxious feeling as the audience comes to realize what is about to happen to Ada. This is a very important scene where Ada's only way of communicating is cut off from her. Just as George stated, her wings have been cut off. It is the climax of the story and the beginning of where everything begins to come to a close. It depicts the importance of the piano as Ada's voice as the film is starting to come to a close. This is it for the piano analysis. Thank you for listening.